Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever you are. Thank you for listening to the Backlog Busting Project. My name is Wes, and with me, as always, is Randy.
Wes, something tells me that this is going to be a very interesting episode.
Yep.
And if it's not, I'm going to rewind time and make it interesting.
Anyway, I'd probably right there with you. Anyway, so we're going to have some pretty interesting discussion here in this episode, and there are two games we played that we're going to bust out the spoiler warnings for. So, yeah, without any further ado, let's just get right on down to it and go to Play or Nay. And we're going to start off with Odin Spear, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that because it's 10:25 at night as we record this, and I'm tired and sunburnt. Fuck it. It is the HD remake of Odin Spear, coming out for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, and PlayStation Vita on June 7th, 2016. Developed by Vanillaware and published by Atlas. This is a full HD remake of the PS2 action RPG, like 2D side-scrolling action RPG Odin Spear, originally released on the PS2. This game has amazing artwork.
Yes.
The artwork is just beautiful. And then I seem to remember reading about Odin Spear at the time, and apparently it's got a lot of really complex like leveling systems and skill systems. Like, well, there's a trailer out for the remake where they show off like the skill system, and it's just like this sprawling thing of branches and other shit you can do, and I'm just like, holy shit. It actually looks really up my alley. I was going to be I always said I wanted to play the original and never got around to it before my PS2 died, so I may give this a shot myself. So I'm going to give this a pretty strong play. It seems to be right up my alley.
Yeah, I'm going to just out myself. I've never even heard of Odin Sphere.
Well, go ahead, sorry.
But I have to say, after watching the trailer, like I watched the trailer and when it first started, I went, oh, this looks like Dust. Mm-hmm. It was like, Dust was a great game.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed that one. This is going to be awesome. And then it was like, the HD remake of a PS2 game. I go, oh, Dust looks like this.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I have to say it backwards now.
Yeah.
I'm all in on this game. I put it on there just going, well, we've already talked about a few of the games that are coming out the day that this podcast comes out. So
yeah.
We kind of stretched it out a little bit. So I just throw this one in here, and I watched it. Absolute play for me.
Yep.
This is one of those games that this podcast does credit for, as I have completely missed this game. Atlas is nice enough to remake it here for the PS4. Most likely I'll be playing it on the Vita, because I love playing games on my Vita. So, huge
especially play. RPGs.
Yeah, well, and even action RPGs. So, I mean, this will go right in there with my slow process Final Fantasy X playthrough that I have going on right now. I have a little bit of time to spare. I'll get a couple battles in the system. So, absolutely play for me.
Alrighty then. Yeah. So, yeah, that's some pretty strong RPG play action there. No, we're both not RPG fans at all. Why do you ask? Anyway, next up on the docket is Sherlock Holmes, The Devil's Daughter, coming out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on June 10th. This is developed by, actually, I think you have these backwards, Randy. I'm pretty sure it's developed by Frogwares and published by Big Ben Interactive. But either way, whichever it is, they're the two companies involved. This is somehow the 8th game in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes series, and they've been doing them since, like, 2002.
Serious?
Yep.
I don't think I've heard of one of them.
I've heard of a couple of them. I can't remember which exact game in the series it is, but one of them kind of became a meme because the way they programmed Watson to follow you in one game, he just silently teleported behind you. So it just kind of became a thing where he just silently teleported behind you, and then you turn around and he's just staring at you with, dead, lifeless eyes because mid-2000s, Uncanny Valley shit. But anyway, this is actually kind of also a soft reboot for them because it's a different incarnation of the character than the one in the previous games. and he somehow has a adopted daughter now, and the trailer looked kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. I do like the Sherlock Holmes like character. Like I did. Like I went through a phase when I first got when I first got an iPod Touch. I actually used it more to read books than I did play music somehow, and I had like the entire collection of Sherlock Holmes books on it, and so I did read all the way through those. So you'd figure this would be something that would be right up my alley again, but not really. It didn't really catch my attention. The graphics didn't really look all that good, and it's just kind of like, no. I'm going to go nay on this one.
So, I'm going to go an obscure reference here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you had the creators of Mega Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And come out with their own concept, their own characters and stuff. And then they decided to take that idea and then put cartoon characters in it and sell that off. And that was DuckTales. Not the exact same people, but the same company kind of took the same idea from Mega Man, put what am I thinking of? A
duck?
Well, I was going to say a famous person, but it's it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
But something that everyone knew, right? When I watched the trailer for Sherlock Holmes, I get the feeling that the people from the Order 1886 went, well, we have this game, but now we need a celebrity. So let's take the Order 1886 and put Sherlock Holmes on it. It looks just like the Order, to me.
Discount the Order, maybe. CinemaSins-esque ding right here.
Well, probably. And I will also say in the trailer that the adopted daughter might be some of the worst voice acting I've heard since the PlayStation 2.
Yep.
She drove me nuts in it. But I'm curious about the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also worried about the gameplay. I've not played it, but I've heard the gameplay and the Murdered Soul Suspect was god awful and made an interesting game terrible.
Right.
So I'm kind of waiting to see if the gameplay saves some of the bad voice acting.
Yeah.
And maybe it has a couple extra elements that, we're just not seeing yet.
Right.
So it's tough for me to pick either one. I'll say a slight nay right now, pending on, how some of the reviews come out and how the gameplay actually works. But I'm interested a little bit, but it just seems like one of those discount. We have a Sherlock Holmes character. We're going to have to use them in games because, that will sell.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be that great.
Yeah. Funny you should mention a couple things there. Funny you should mention the Order 1886 being, kind of a framework for this game, because I distinctly remember, I haven't played the game myself, but I watched, Game Care Network and Dartigan, two YouTubers who do, gaming sins videos in the style of CinemaSins, both did the Order 1886, and they both only Dartigan did. But he pointed out there was a character in the Order 1886 that you speak that comes up in cutscenes, and he is Commissioner Doyle, as in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he uses elementary. It's like the Order 1886 has several references to Sherlock Holmes in it, and to hear you then go...
Well, absolutely. I mean, that doesn't even surprise me, because the Order 1886 is based around that same kind of timeline.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. It is. And then, they also dragged Jack the Ripper into it, too, because 1880s London. But anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to point out real quick before we move along is if anybody's listening to this and wants to, correct what Randy just said, yes, we're aware that Murdered Soul Suspect was not developed by anybody involved in Sherlock Holmes. He was just using it as an example of a mystery game that looked interesting and then had bad gameplay sink it.
I didn't. I don't think I made it sound like...
I don't personally think you did either, but it just kind of crossed my mind, and I just figured I'd say it while I was thinking about it.
Stop thinking, Wes.
that never goes well for anybody involved. Anyway, next game on the list is Color Symphony 2, which is already out for PC, but is coming to Xbox One and Wii U from the looks of it on June 8, 2016. Developed and published by Rememory, or just really pretentious game studio and name. Really pretentious game studio name and really pretentious concept for a game, because I watched gameplay footage of this, and it's just like it's a puzzle platformer, basically, where you can choose the color of the background, and that changes what obstacles are in front of you or what you can use to progress. But it's just, oh my god! And then the story is told via text on the in the background of the levels as you progress, and it just looks so generic and bad from what I saw. Just did not catch my interest at all. Nay, and especially because you have to collect fedoras and then jump to the exit, and I'm just sitting there going, really? That's what you're going with? Collect hats, get to the exit? Okay.
So, Wes, there's a game that I want to remind you that I don't think you thought was going to be very good at all.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of where I'm going with this?
No, I can't.
The Unfinished Swan. Super generic, all about colors. The story was told through text. But this does a platforming element instead of a free roaming element to it. I'm actually interested in it. I'm going to say play for me, because I love puzzle games, for one. Two, I don't see it as pretentious. I mean, it takes its own style to it. I love the idea of, if you switch the color, that different obstacles will show up, or different things a platformer will appear or go away, so you can progress in different things. Something tells me that what they're showing in the trailer is early part of game, and later part of game may add even more elements, a la The Unfinished Swan, which is why we both absolutely loved it. We thought it was, pretty simple to begin with, and then they add enough where it's like, oh, okay, I'm in, I got this. So that's where I'm going with Color Symphony 2, is obviously it's the second one, so I think they've learned something from the first, and they're going to add different things, so it's not just 3 colors that you have to go through over and over. If that's the case, and it's just the 3 colors, and it's strictly time-based, then it's a nay, but I have confidence in a studio that I have no idea about.
Yeah. You're just trying to be contrary at this point.
No, not at all. I told you, when I picked these 4 games, I had one possible play in there till I watched the trailers, and now I'm mostly play, except Sherlock Holmes I'm very iffy about.
Mm-hmm.
I love puzzle games. I'm way in on puzzle games. But if I'm with you, if it's just the 3 colors and it's that over and over, then that's a boring puzzle game. But if they add elements to it, and they make it more difficult, and they add variety to it, it could be really interesting and a lot of fun. So it's a play for me.
Alrighty then. Yeah, I guess we'll go with that.
An Undertale fan saying a different game. I'm just kidding.
Oh, Jesus. Shots fired.
Undertale fans, put your pitchforks down. I was joking.
All 3 of you watching this, or listening to this, and that's being generous. Self-deprecation. It's been a while. Anyway, on to the final game to play our nay this episode. Kirby Planet Robobot for the 3DS, June 10th, 2016. Developed, of course, by HAL Laboratories and published by Nintendo.
Here, let's just quickly go through Kirby. This is Kirby. This is your old school kind of Kirby game. I've never played an old school kind of Kirby game. I played Kirby's Epic Yarn, or whatever. What was it?
It was Epic Yarn, yeah.
Epic Yarn? Yeah. I played that, but that's not your old school kind of Kirby game.
Yeah.
But it's a play. I at some point I got to play an old school kind of a Kirby game, and that's what this looks like. So play for me.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up. Play.
Yep.
Yep. Not much else going on there.
Not much going on at Nintendo.
Yeah, true. Their E3 is looking dire, because they're not even doing a Nintendo Direct. They're just like, yeah, we're going to have a Treehouse stream with Zelda and stuff that's already out.
We're going to get into it, because actually our next episode, I have it wrong in the show notes. Our next episode is actually next week.
Yeah.
We're doing E3 special.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know. I absolutely love E3. I nearly went to this E3, but plans kind of changed, and somebody that I thought was going to go and hang out couldn't make it, and I was like, I don't want to go by myself.
Yeah.
And save money anyways. I would love to go to an E3. But E3 is no longer the end-all be-all.
Yeah.
If a company has a quote-unquote poor showing at E3, the internet's going to blow up and think that they're going to die. There's now 73 other events throughout the year where big announcements are made. And just because Nintendo is not announcing the NX or what it looks like, which I'm with the people. I want to know what the fuck it is. I'm tired of rumors telling me it's going to be as powerful as a PS4 and it's now going to have VR and your controller is going to look like an egg and
actually be like entirely be a screen.
And it's going to be a transformer of all things. I mean, I'm tired of those rumors. I just want to know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
But just because they're not showing it at E3 and they want to show it in a couple months instead, I don't care. That's totally fine. EA is going to do their own thing before. Totally cool. It kind of diminishes E3, but that's what has kind of been happening. People are kind of pulling away from it, and that's fine. And mostly E3 is just for those press conferences anyways. A lot of the E3 coverage is, oh my god, for like 2 days with all the press conferences. And then when you actually can see all the games and all the coverage of the smaller titles, it's nowhere. You gotta search for coverage of the actual E3 event. But anyway, it's not a big deal. So that will actually be our next episode next week. Next Tuesday, we will have a special E3 podcast. But our next actual podcast in 2 weeks, where we play games, we'll finish up Best of 2015 month. Well, again, in quotations, Best of 2015 of games that we can beat in 2 weeks. Sorry, Fallout 4 and The Witcher 3.
And stuff, we actually have access to, in my case.
That is also true. So, our co-play game is going to be Until Dawn, which I'm super excited about, especially after playing Life is Strange and how things, affect the game and how different our gameplays might end up being. I'm super excited for that. I get to play Ori and the Blind Forest for the Xbox One. Super excited about that. I mean, me and platformers, and I've heard this thing is not only beautiful, but well made and a great game to play. And Wes, I'm sorry.
I don't...
You have stream fans, and they always bitch, in your defense, that you always get the weird games. Just because you stream your weird games more than I have lately, which I've slightly...
Which you've been changing.
But, I kind of have to agree with him on this one. You get the weird one this time.
And again, this is more just like I said, games that we have access to that came out in 2015. Because I'm playing I Am Toast.
Best of 2015? It got a lot of coverage in 2015. And we're going to get some great reactions from Wes.
Well, I just remember us trying to play it near the tail end of the Extra Life Marathon, and we were too far gone at that point, I think.
And we kicked ass until we couldn't fit in the toaster. We were fine until that point.
So, just at the end of the first level, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Bringing the room down, man.
There you go. Those are our next 2 podcasts that you get to look forward to. And now we get to get into this podcast, which I'm super excited about. We never planned this way. These are just games that we wanted to play. But here we go with 2 games that you can mess around with time. 2 games from Square Enix. And 3 really amazing games, I think. I think both of us, at the end of this episode, will go, it's going to be tough to play or play games for a podcast where we had this much enjoyment that doesn't equal an August podcast where we did Metal Gear last year and we're doing Zelda this year. Yep. It's going to be tough to have a podcast where we were this happy playing games.
Yep. Yeah, I've got to fully agree there. I cannot believe how much time I spent on both my games. But we'll get to that later, because right now we're going to start off with your game.
Yes.
And that's going to be Rise of the Tomb Raider, released November 10th, 2015 for the Xbox One. They've claimed that it's coming for PS4 eventually. They still have not announced anything about that.
Yeah, it still says Q4. Yeah, and it's out on PC.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it's PC too.
Yeah, but, January 28th of this year. It came out for the PC.
Yep, and it's developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Square Enix. And I will let you take it away from here.
Okay, so let's get right into it with the story. If you guys played the first one, which was kind of the reboot of the series, you played it, right?
The first
Tomb Raider?
The reboot, yes.
Yeah. So if you
in fact, I think I played and beat it before you did, and then I told you to go. You asked me because I ordered it just on a whim, beat it, and then you asked me, and I told you to go play it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a wonderful game. If you haven't played it, please do. It really is amazing. It shocked my mind when Square Enix came out with a statement saying they were disappointed with it as far as sales and all of that went. When it did amazing.
Well, not sorry to interrupt your train of thought on Rise of the Tomb Raider, but that was simply because they were trying to mask how badly Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was doing at the time. And they were basically looking for everything else to pick up Final Fantasy XIV, and it didn't, so their expectations were sky high, which is a mistake they may be repeating with Final Fantasy 15, but we'll see how that goes.
But anyway, so that game is kind of this game is called Rise of the Tomb Raider, but the original game kind of was the Rise of the Tomb Raider. This was where she became the Lara Croft that we all know. You know, she goes through some hardships. You know, she gets her ass kicked. I joked a lot after playing that game where Laura had a really shitty day in the first game, and she went through a lot. This game takes it a step further, and now Laura is out to fix her father's legacy. Her father was in search of something called a divine source, which was supposed to grant eternal life. And him searching for that as much as he was made everyone think he was crazy, and they didn't believe him. So all of his reputation of being an amazing explorer went down the toilet, and then he got killed. So now Laura's out trying to hunt this down, and you're battling with a group called Trinity, who is the evil power that wants to take the divine source and use it for evil, you know, create an army and da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
But Trinity also has a little bit of an underbelly where you have Constantine, who is your main enemy, who is the brother of a character, blanking on the name. Why am I blanking on your stupid name? Anna, excuse me. He is the brother of Anna. Anna is the one that married your father, or Lara's father, and ended up basically getting rid of him for Trinity because she is sick and is dying, and Constantine not only wants the divine source for this giant army, he wants to save his sister, which it's a simple concept, but it was just that one thing where it was like, I kind of feel for you a little bit. You're a douche, and the things that you do are awful, but you kind of feel for him a little bit at times. So just a little bit of conflict there. But that's basically the story. It's your race against Trinity to find the divine source. You go and you find a hidden town where a guy named Jacob kind of takes you in, and you help them fight off Trinity from destroying their town to get into the temple that has the divine source. You find out that Jacob was one of the main guys 100 years ago, or hundreds of years ago, I guess, even farther back.
Yeah.
Where he was the chosen one and he had his army and he used the divine source with his army and then realized that, like everything, turns to batshit crazy and evil, so he locks them away in the temple and they kind of guard it. And typical wonderful treasure has evil curse scenario, a la Uncharted and Indiana Jones, and basically what this series is.
Yeah.
And Tomb Raider. So that's your story. The gameplay itself is actually really good. I mean, to the point where I feel like Uncharted 4 missed the boat in a couple areas. Uncharted 4, which we will do in a podcast in the future, but I've already beat, is a lot more gorgeous, and I think the controls are more sleek. They work better. There are times with this Tomb Raider game where I have a little bit of issues with the controls. A lot of times where the jump is right there, and you go to make that jump, and it decides Lara wants to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
Instead of go for the thing that you feel like you're going for, which is a minor annoyance, if anything. But the thing that I think Rise of the Tomb Raider actually does better than Uncharted 4 is both of them have collectibles. Both of them have treasures that you have to find. In Uncharted 4, and in all of the Uncharted, they're just little trinkets that you pick up, and then you get trophies.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they're there for. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, you get trinkets and stuff, but they tell a little bit of a lore. You get scrolls that tell different stories throughout the game of many different people writing them out. You find little record tapes that tell even more stories. And all of this not only adds backstory, but it improves Lara's ability to read different languages. I think there's Greek and Russian in this game, which allow her to then read different things, which opens up different areas or finds more secrets, basically. And on top of that, every time you find something like this, you start leveling up. And as you level up, you can start learning skills. So actually treasure hunting and going out and finding all of these trinkets improves the gameplay, which is brilliant, and I absolutely love it. You also have the crafting system, which you don't have in Uncharted. So you have all this extra stuff in it that is just phenomenal, and you kind of get lost in it. There's a lot of times, we have to get this game done in 2 weeks. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I gotta get this game done, but I want to go back and just start hunting. I don't want to move on in the game right now. I just want to search this area for everything I can find. You also have the optional tombs in there. I think there are more in this one than last one. I think there's 9 in this one. I forget how many were in the original game, but I remember
a lot less than 9.
Yeah, I remember there was only a couple. They're not that difficult so far. I haven't played all of them. I want to say I've went through 5 or 6 of them, and none of them were as over the top as I remember the tombs in the first one, where you have to do like 6 or 7 different things to complete the task. This is like one task that you have to figure out, and a lot of them, but they're a nice deviant from the gameplay. There's also 2 DLCs that I don't have yet, Baba Yaga, the Temple of the Witch, and Cold Darkness Awakened, which I'm interested in playing. Also, if you're an achievement hunter, Holy God, there's like 135 achievements in this game.
Jesus Christ.
So I have like 40 of them, and I feel like I'm never going to get farther. But all in all, absolutely wonderful game. If you like the Uncharted series, you have to play these 2 Tomb Raider games. They add some things that Uncharted doesn't have that may actually make the gameplay a little bit more enjoyable. The story is nowhere near what it is in Uncharted. The characters are nowhere near what it is in Uncharted. But at times I feel the gameplay might even be better. Like the gunfights sometimes feel a little bit more real than Uncharted. Obviously with the bow and arrow, you get 3 different kinds of arrows that you can go through. Those are all badass and they work really well. I think it's taken a lot from Uncharted 3, where and The Last of Us really, where enemies could really circle Lara, so you can't just sit behind something. You really have to be moving around. So it does a lot of awesome things that I can't wait for a third one. They kind of have one of those thank you Marvel for now every game has to have an after credits cutscene.
Yeah.
That teases the next game. Tomb Raider has one of those. But I'm so glad that this one got more well received as far as like financially goes or how much it sold. Just looking things up for the podcast, it actually sold over 1 million copies before the end of 2015, which is pretty good for it coming out in November.
Yep.
And the thing that actually surprised me, it was the highest selling Xbox One game during this week.
Sorry, pardon me.
There was no other Xbox One game that sold more copies than Tomb Raider did during Christmas. And the reason that surprises me was Halo 5 came out around the same time.
Well,
this game outsold Halo 5 during the Christmas season.
To be fair, Halo's been on a downswing since Bungie hasn't been developing them. But I get what you're trying to say. But
I'm talking Christmas week.
Yeah.
Where parents and grandparents go, oh yeah, I know my kid has played Halo, I will buy them that. And Tomb Raider's still outsold, which is awesome, and it's well deserved. This game is wonderful, and one of those that I will continue playing after the podcast as I somehow try to figure out how to get all of those achievements.
Yeah. Well, can't really say it any fairer than that. You covered just about everything I wanted to cover. So I guess if you don't have anything else, we'll just move along to Undertale.
I'll just say I played the best game of the podcast.
Well, yeah, but we haven't talked about it yet.
Spoilers.
Damn it. Anyway, so we will now move on to, my game, which was Undertale, released on PC on September 15th, 2015, developed by Toby Fox, and it is a Kickstarter game.
And I will apologize for Wes typing in all of your ears.
Yep, I will go ahead and apologize for that too, but hey, I gotta leave notes for future self so I know when to edit this shit. Anyway, so Undertale, if you're listening to this project, you probably already know about it, but it is a very interesting RPG, and it hews very closely to like the really old school, like Super Nintendo era, almost even Nintendo era RPGs. The graphics are very simplified. I wouldn't quite say 8-bit, but they're not quite 16-bit either. I guess I would say. And basically what this is you are playing as a child that fell down into this abyss at the top of a mountain.
And Lassie wasn't there to save you.
Yeah, no, she was not. But you fall into this abyss at the top of the mountain, which leads to the underworld. The underground, where all the monsters in the world were sealed after a war with humanity. And along the way, you meet... the first creature you meet is this talking flower by the name of Flowey. And he gives you a rather rude awakening into the world by shooting friendliness pellets at you. Bullets. Sorry, got some in my throat there. But... You are then quickly saved from death by a goat woman by the name of Toriel, who then guides you through her home in the ruins around the edge of the abyss, basically. And she tells you that you can resolve all conflicts without fighting, and that kind of sets up the major kind of underpinning thing of Undertale is. Should you so choose, you can go through this game without killing a single living creature.
You could say it's the tail under the tail?
Oh my god. I hate you so much right now.
Just wait. It gets better.
Oh.
Or worse, I guess.
Anyway.
Hey, you can't be mad at that. When you're laughing and gut rolling when you're playing Undertale about the character's name is Toriel, and haha, that's tutorial, and haha, that's so clever.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I love a good pun as much as the next person, even if sometimes they make me cringe. Anyway, So you kind of go through the world and you meet you meet the brothers Skeleton, Sans and Papyrus, who their dialogues are also in the font that is their name. Like Sans is in a version of Comic Sans, basically, for the most part, and then Papyrus is, of course, in Papyrus. You meet them, talk with them, make friends with them, and it's basically you going through this world and deciding how you want to interact with its inhabitants. And you can either make friends with them or kill them. And as you keep going through the game, making friends, you keep hearing about this legendary figure, this King Asgore Dreamer. Whoops, wrong name there almost. But and he's built up as this mythical figure, an all-powerful figure who will kill any human that comes in, because as a result of the war, the monsters were all sealed underground, and the barrier needs 7 human souls for the monsters to be able to break through it and get back up to the surface. Because that's all they really want to do. They want to get up to the surface, and the only way to do it appears to be to let the king take the 7 souls into himself and destroy the barrier. And, you finally get to the king, and it turns out he is a complete and total softie, even though he puts on a very brave front. And if you're playing on a pacifist run, which I did the first time, and I did get the true pacifist ending, you can eventually convince him to put down his weapon, and a non-violent solution is found, and you break the barrier, and the monsters and humans live happily ever after. And then, kind of one of the other kind of interesting things about Undertale comes into play. Because this game is probably one of the more meta experiences I've ever had playing a game. The concept of saving your game and, altering timelines and whatnot with your actions is one of the major themes of Undertale. Your ability to save the game and, reload to that save game if something goes wrong is an actual recognized in-universe ability. And it colors a lot of your interactions, especially if you decide to be a complete asshole, like I unfortunately did, and do a genocide run where you kill every living creature you come across. Because then you see, you find out a bit more about the nature of timelines on that, plus the true lab and the true pacifist ending. And, yeah, it is... I'm kind of skating around it because if you're a fan at all of RPGs, I really do believe very strongly that you should at least give Undertale a shot without anybody else coloring the experience for you. And I am so glad that I somehow got this far without getting the majority of Undertale spoiled for me. Like, I knew going in some of the basics, like, you had the choice to, kill everybody or be pacifist. Like, I knew that. I knew kind of some of the characters, but I did not know everything. And my experience was so much better to be able to sit there, play through it blind than it would have been if everybody had been like, you need to go play this game right the hell now. It's got this, 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 and this. So, I'm going to, it's an amazing storyline. The soundtrack is amazing. I do kind of wish that the battles had actually, the battles were pretty fun, and they did have a lot of variety, because this game, the battles take place, your attacks are pretty much all timing-based, like you have to hit the button at the right time to do more damage, and then monsters' attacks play out basically like bullet hell mini-games. Like, they will shoot projectiles at you that you then have to move around your soul, which is the cursor on your screen, to dodge, and it's pretty damn amazing. And I'm going to just interrupt myself here. Randy, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay. You've just been so quiet for so long, I was like, But anyway, yeah. And each enemy has its own distinct pattern. There's not any single enemy in the game where it repeats a gimmick, which is amazing to me. And then, yeah. I will say the boss battles in the Pacifist run aren't all that special, with the exception of the last two, I'm going to say. Mediton and Asgore. The rest of them were just kind of unremarkable. Where this game's boss fights really start to shine is in the Genocide path. And I'm talking specifically about two bosses that anybody who has been watching my streams will know which two I'm referring to. Undyne and Sans.
Yeah, how's that Sans battle going for you?
Yeah, I'm still getting dunked on a regular basis. Actually, I haven't played it in a few days, but I do eventually, because I know I'm right near the end, and I hate leaving something right at the end like that. Much like you are with Super Mario RPG, and I forget what the other one was just recently.
No, actually, I think it was Paper Mario, and I got that one beat.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did beat the Shadow Queen. That's right. Sorry. It was even your title on the first episode we did on Twitch, was Slayer of Queens. What the hell?
Yeah, come on, man. Alright, so I'm going to interject here.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched bits and pieces
Mm-hmm.
of your stream.
Yep.
And I will 150% agree with you. The music is amazing.
Yes.
I absolutely love the gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
the battle system, with how it's unique and different with each battle,
Mm-hmm.
and like watching you play Sans, you know after a while that there's a pattern to it. You just have to hit the pattern. And I love that it's kind of a little bit of a platformer based.
Yeah.
And
Sans' fight is platform based. He's not the only one who's a platformer,
but it's a good mix.
Yeah.
Of them mixed into your regular RPG.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you, and try to figure out how to phrase it. 'Cause I'm not trying to be mean.
Yeah, no.
Again, from what I've seen of this, looks like it's a great game.
Yeah, and I'm gonna while you're thinking of how to formulate that question, I am going to tell you right now that with what you just said about it, I think you should go buy it and play it.
Okay.
Or I'll Steam share with you and you can play it off my account, because hello. Yeah.
So my question to you is, our biggest difference in the way we saw Earthbound was you got way into the characters.
Yes.
And I did not. I felt like they missed the boat with the characters. They didn't develop the characters like I thought they should have, but you felt the connection with them. So my question to you, is this going to be the same with Undertale? Because from what I've seen, Undertale is not that long of a game.
No, it's not.
So do they really develop these characters to where I feel like they should? Or was it just something because you were really enjoying it that you got into those characters?
It's somewhere in the middle, to go all South Park on you. They're not like going to be super developed characters, but there's multiple times on if you do Pacifist, there are multiple times where Sans will take you aside and talk with you about what he's doing and what Papyrus is doing. And the bonus stuff that happens when you complete a neutral run of the game, because you do have to beat the boss of the neutral path, and then go back on your save file and do a couple extra things before you actually get to the true pacifist ending. And during some of those events, you also kind of get a bit more insight into some character relationships. And it's not good, like, this isn't like novel level, backstories or anything, but it is, I will begrudgingly admit, it is a bit more involved than Earthbound in the character development department. Mm-hmm. Whether it would be up to your standards of character development, it would be a really hard answer for me.
Oh, yeah. But that was just kind of my question. I mean, and actually you saying that has me a bit more interested in it, because, again, I mean, not to waste time on something we've talked about 100,000 times by this point. But with Earthbound, I was excited to play it, and the gameplay was pretty fun, but it was just very generic. And then you get, I mean, you know what I mean by generic. It's bad guy, evil, go stop him. Yeah. But with the goofy twist of it's modern and it's very goofy and all that thrown on. But like the story, it's bad guy shows up, go kill bad guy. Yeah. And you go through the towns to get it, but like it never felt like anything change. It never felt like there was any character development through the whole thing. I do know that, as you said, with Undertale, if you do something and you go back, that the characters will remember things.
Yeah.
Or will make slight references. I'm just worried that I'm going to play it and they will do that. And I'm like, well, sure, that's cool. And it's a very different mechanic where they actually remember things. But it's like, is it going to get old? Am I actually going to feel for these characters? I remember you telling me that you didn't like the Genocide run because you're like, I like these characters. I don't want to kill them now.
Yeah.
Like, how could you like them so much when it's such a short experience? But again, I mean, you and I interpret games differently.
Yeah.
At times with the next game.
Oh boy, this is going to be fun.
And that's totally cool. So I was curious because I'm interested in it just on the gameplay alone.
Yeah.
And just for the fact that one dude made this game.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very much a labor of love for him, and it's pretty good, in my opinion. I mean,
I will not knock Undertale one bit. I mean, even if I do play it and don't get into the story at all, Toby Fox did enough different in the RPG world where you can just take your head off to him and go, okay, you did something new and the gameplay worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gameplay is pretty solid. Music is fucking amazing.
Yes.
Like, the weird part is, I figured, my life was going to be, well, we'll get into this later. I'll come back to that thought, after we talk about the next game. And I liked the characterization, but I think I also just kinda, I do kinda go a little bit beyond, this is gonna sound really weird, but I do fill in blanks a lot more readily than you do, I think.
But I also think it's more, and it's totally fine, but I think you fill in the blanks in games that you're enjoying.
Yeah.
I think if we go through the history of this podcast, I mean, I'm a lot more critical out of the two of us, period. But when it comes to character development, if you're enjoying the game, you fill in blanks far more than I do. But if you're not enjoying it, you don't take the time to fill in those blanks.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, this is just shit, and the characters were shit. And I'm like, and that's where we got into arguments. It's like, this character got developed just as much as this game, but you didn't take the time to fill in the blanks. But he, again, Toby Fox put in that much love into it. Watching you for bits and pieces of your stream, you absolutely fell in love with it and made it enjoyable to watch. So I get it. I understand why people love Undertale.
With my really bad voice acting.
Well, you weren't. How about this? You weren't worse than the girl on the Sherlock Holmes trailer.
Damn.
There you go. But it has me interested in it. I will give this game a try. I might wait and see if the Steam sale in a month has it knocked way the hell down. But I will give it a try.
Yeah. And then,
which is something I never thought I was going to do.
Well, and to be fair, it's only like $10.
That's true.
Or actually, I think that may be for the game plus the soundtrack. Now that I think about it, but
that's worth it.
Yeah, it's like right in that wheelhouse of like $10 to $15. So yeah, it's definitely worth it to me. But then again, like I said, if I start enjoying a game, I fill in the blanks. So yeah, that's gonna about do it for Undertale. I think it is an amazing game. And if you're a fan of RPGs, you need to go play it.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Period.
All right. So let's get into it. I'm so excited. I've been excited. I beat this game a week before, we were recording this podcast, and I have been harping on you, telling you if you do not finish this game, I was going to hunt you down. Like I will tease you if a game doesn't get completed, because man, you're not doing your backlog right or whatever.
Yeah.
This game I knew, especially if you chose a few things differently, that we were going to have a wonderful discussion.
Yeah, which, spoiler alert, I did.
Yeah. So let's just go through this. I have one question for you first. Episode 1 came out January 29th of last year. The last episode, October 20th of last year. If we would have just decided to play this January 29th of 2015, how pissed would you be having to wait the 2-3 months every episode?
like, I know hindsight is 2020 here. Go ahead.
A more generalized question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about episodic gaming?
Well, it's weird because we've had this situation happen twice now, because we've done Life is Strange now, and we did the Back to the Future series.
Yeah, but the Back to the Future ones, I mean, sure, they tried to do cliffhangers, but I mean, the story was super generic. They didn't like do anything crazy with it. Nothing like what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future doing it in bits and pieces is totally fine, because actually it kind of breaks up the monotony of it. Life is Strange, they end some episodes with some bangs.
Yeah. Let's see here. To go back to my thought, I was trying to remember the end of each episode and remember how pissed I would have been at waiting between episodes. I think the main ones where I would have been pissed would have been 3 and 4.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a little bit, because we're gonna give a huge spoiler warning.
Yeah,
or I start going into you about the decisions you made.
Okay, so
I haven't finished it out. Developer is Don't Nod Entertainment, which, by the way, I love their logo.
Yes,
and how that works.
Yes,
if you don't understand it, just type it out and then look at it backwards.
Yep.
Published again by Square Enix. There you go. Go ahead and tell the basics of the story, Wes.
Okay. So basically, you play as Max. Oh God, I forgot her last name. Caulfield. There we go.
Caulfield. Yep.
And you are an 18-year-old student at Blackwell Academy, which is a prestigious private art institute that basically replaces high school for gifted students in the small town of Arcadia Bay, Oregon. And one day you are just sitting in class on a normal day, and you finish your class after some discussion on photography with your professor, and then you go to the bathroom and witness a murder. And then suddenly you find you have the ability to rewind time. As you rewind time and then suddenly find yourself back in the classroom, go back to the bathroom, and then you manage to stop this mysterious girl from being shot. And then you find out later on that mysterious girl was a former best friend of yours, because you used to live in Arcadia Bay, and then 5 years prior to the events of Life is Strange, Max had to move away. And she came back after 5 years, and now her former best friend is completely different from what she remembers, and they kind of start bonding again. But the time rewind power seems to have some effects on the local ecosystem. Yeah. And it basically becomes a game about trying to figure out why you have these powers, using them to try and improve the situation in Arcadia Bay and prevent a catastrophic tornado from coming and destroying the town, as you find out at the end of the first episode. And to go any further than that would be massive spoilers, so this is your one and only warning. If anything I just said catches your attention in any way, shape, or form, stop listening to this podcast right now. Go buy Life is Strange and go fucking play it. Because we are about to absolutely ruin this entire game series with a point-by-point, basically a point-by-point discussion, which is something we haven't done in a long fucking time on this show. And we both feel very strongly that this game is goddamn amazing. And it is a game that you need to experience first before discussing it. So, not
only that, before we hit full-on spoilers, not only, if the story interests you, if the story interests somebody that you know that's not even into video games, this is a perfect gateway video game for, like, your mom. Where it's like, just sit down and play this game. It's so good.
Yes.
It's amazing. I give it full credit where it has taken the episodic gameplay and turned it on its head. I'm a big fan of the Walking Dead series. Mm-hmm. This blows some of those choices out of the water as far as just how they made me feel, basically. So, again, your last warning right here. If you have interest and have not played this game, We appreciate you listening to the Backlog Busting Project, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Yes.
If you have played it, or have zero interest and just want to hear us yell at each other for 30 minutes, stick around, and we appreciate that too. But this is your warning. You have 5 seconds.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
Wes, what the fuck?
Oh, God. Okay. So, do you just want to jump right to the end here, or do you want to go point by point?
No, let's go. We'll go point by point. But you, sir. Okay, so basically, you start out, and as you said, you witness a murder, and you basically find out that's when you have time control, because first you see the tornado, and then you're in the classroom, and then you see the murder, and all of a sudden you can rewind back, and you're back in the classroom. And now you're trying to figure all this stuff out, and you're hearing the same speech over and over. You're seeing the same instances happen. So you're like trying to figure out: am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Is this a nightmare? What is going on? You then change the course of history by saving the girl that you, for whatever reason, do not recognize at first, and therefore change everything.
Yes.
And you then set on your way of continuing to fix fuck-ups.
Yeah.
For 5 games, you fix fuck-ups.
Well, let's be fair here. 5 parts to a full game.
Yes, absolutely. So, the one thing that I'm very curious how you felt, I had many times where I felt, I mean, obviously, the time control is interesting. But I felt like the time control at times weakened the choices I made. Especially in the first episode or two. Because every time you made a decision, because there's like 5 or 6 major decisions you make in each episode. Every time you made one of those decisions, Max said something like, "Oh, this person didn't like that decision. Should I go back and fix it?" And you have the ability until you leave the room to go back and choose the other one.
Yeah.
Which kind of ruins it for me in a little bit of a way, because it's like, it's not the impact of a Walking Dead where you made the decision, you're stuck with it unless you want to reload your save. This is like, go watch this result. Okay, now rewind and watch this result. Which one makes you feel better inside?
I would argue that's kind of the point.
But with the intense decisions you have to make, I kind of wish they took that away, which they do in episode 2.
Yeah.
And that is the most impactful part of the entire game to me.
And I kind of wish they would have done it for episode 3, but we'll get there. Or it is, you know which one I'm talking about. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But like, to go back a little bit, I did, and clarify, I think they wanted you to, kind of have that moment of, oh God, should I go back and fix that? Because, the entirety of the nightmare sequence in episode 5 is pretty much them telling you, you know what? We'll come back to this thought later, because once we get to the nightmare sequence in episode 5, we'll come to back to this thought, and I'll go ahead and make a note to myself so I don't forget.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of the thing with me. With you can go back and forth. It wasn't. I mean, part of it I think it weakens it. The other part is, especially like the first episode or 2, Max bitches about any decision you make. Where my girlfriend played this before me, so she was really excited that we were doing this on the podcast.
Right.
And she sat and watched me play the entire game, and
nice.
When we made different decisions, or just me agonizing over some of the decisions I have to make. But there are many times where I would just stop and look at her and go, "Did I fuck up? Max is really mad at me right now.
Yeah.
Do I want to go back and fix it?" And then I would go back and fix it, and Max would be really fucking pissed at me that I made the other decision.
Yeah.
So, to the point where I just kind of got annoyed a little bit with the first episode. Am I just going to get complained at every time I get to this decision?
Yeah.
Like, which is fine, but it's like come on. Yeah. But to their credit, it does go away.
Yeah, and again, I think that is also kind of the point, and it's something I'll come back to when we get to the episode 5 sequence. Yeah. So anyway, back on track, episode 1. This is going to be a while at this rate. Oh my god.
Love it. I knew this was happening.
Anyway, so where were we? So
episode 1, you save the murder, and then you have the decision. Do you tell the principal, or do you not?
Yeah.
Did you?
I believe I ended up going with I did.
I did too, and later on I regretted it. Just for the fact that it didn't matter. I mean, he was a rich kid that got his way, and I wish I would have just been the rebel the whole way. Because once I realized that, no, nothing's going to happen here, I went against the authority the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not helping me anyways.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that colored my experience at all. There were, there are a couple of lines of dialogue later that reference it, but a lot of the decisions the game gives you don't really come up in any too major of a fashion, because the weird part about that is, though, it does feel like, things actually changed as a result of those decisions, but it's not in a major way, if that makes sense.
There's only like 2 or 3 that truly affect the way the game gets played out.
Yeah, I think that first choice was actually one of the few that I rewound and looked at both choices before I actually made my decision, which I'm actually kind of surprised about, because I'm usually that way too, like you were, where you were kind of like, oh god, that reaction was bad, should I fix it?
And I only did that in the first episode. Maybe even the first 2 or 3 choices before I went, no, screw it, this is where I'm going.
Yeah, I think I only, I'd have to go back and rewatch my gameplay footage, because but I don't remember having too much of a, oh god, did I do the wrong thing there? There were a few times, especially in the later episodes, where I sat at the decision screen and went, oh Jesus, what do I do? Yes, but there wasn't one where I went, there weren't a lot where I went, this decision, oh god, no, rewind, try again. Although there were a couple of those too in the later episodes. Oof. But, simply because they went a little bit differently than I thought they would. But, so, after you decide whether or not to tell the principal, you you wander out into the courtyard, and, a couple other things happen, and then the next major choice, I believe, is the parking lot.
I was looking up a strategy guide real quick.
Yeah.
So I could go through.
Guess who forgot to do point by points on the production modes? That would be this guy right here.
Oh, your next major decision is in the courtyard, where you have a bully in your class named Victoria. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I remember this now.
Who is basically teasing you and making fun of you the whole time. Mm-hmm. You basically have you go through, and she's talking about selfies or whatever, so you decide to get her back with the prank, and you dump paint on her and her friends.
Slight correction there. She's blocking the way into the girls' dormitory. True. And you dump the paint on her to get the fuck out of the way.
Basically.
Because she's angry at you for showing her up in class.
Yes. So basically you can, after you dump the paint, you can apologize or mock. Mm-hmm. Basically. I mocked.
I apologized.
You're dumb.
Because, she was a bit of a bitch, but, we did ruin a pretty nice looking set of clothing, and,
Get the hell out of the way.
But, I tried not to be an asshole in this game too much, unless I really hated the character, and Victoria at that point had not given me too much reason to hate her.
I hated her for the moment I saw her.
Yeah, I mean, that changed in later episodes, especially episode 2, but, at the time I did that specific decision, I wasn't quite full-on hatred mode for her yet. I was like, okay, you're being kind of a dick, but I wasn't like, oh my god, go die in a fire yet. So I chose to come...
fire, I just dumped paint on her face.
Yeah, but, I guess I'm just kind of a nicer guy than usual.
Bullshit. We'll get to the bullshit in that statement at the end of this. So then you go on and you get a bunch of backstory. You go through the dormitory, which is part of the thing that is really interesting about this game is you can go and interact with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. The thing that is kind of frustrating is there are points in this game where if you're not a snoopy little bitch, you're not going to know the answer to a lot of questions.
Yeah.
To get through things smoothly. You really do have to go through everyone's computer, everyone's files, which is weird when you're doing that and they're sitting in the room next to you.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I know you're here, you're talking to me. Hold on a little bit. Let me look at your search history on your computer. Are you cool with that? Is everything okay with that? But, all right, you go from there. So after you leave there, your next major decision is you have the security guard of the school, David Manson, who is all up in a young lady's name, Kate Marsh, up in her face, accusing her about things. I can't remember exactly what they were.
I think it was just he was trying to get her to talk to him.
Oh, there's something about the parties.
Yeah.
Whatever club that was.
Vortex Club.
The Vortex Club, thinking she was part of it. And Katie gets picked on a lot, and we'll get to her main story later. But So at that point, you can either confront him about it or take a picture.
Yeah.
I took a picture thinking, I don't want to get in the middle of it, and now I have evidence because I didn't have... the way my thought process here was, I didn't have evidence to get the kid. So I'm going to have evidence here.
Exactly, yeah. And I followed the same exact logic you did and did the same exact thing.
So you go from there, and you go into the parking lot, and now he confronts... Or why am I forgetting Nathan? Yeah,
Nathan Prescott. I'm going to rewind a second here. Rewind, see what I did there. Totally unintended, actually. But anyway, the consequence of that decision is for not stepping in. Kate did see you, like out of the corner of her eye. So she thinks you're about to step in, and then when you just sit there and take a picture, she kind of gets a little angry at you.
Yes.
And, yeah, that comes up in a big way a little bit later on in episode 2. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because it does come up later.
So you go through all this, and then Nathan confronts you, and your buddy Warren, who Mr. Friendzone.
Oh God,
as I called him.
Oh my God,
comes to your rescue. Gets headbutted in the face. You get in the truck with the girl that you saved in the bathroom, who come to find out is your long-lost childhood friend, Chloe, who you drive off and leave Mr. Friendzone there to get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
And then you're in the bedroom, and you guys are reminiscing. She's smoking pot. You come to find out that her stepfather is the said security guard. And you have the next big decision, which was one of the bigger decisions in my game. Because she gets caught with pot. She wants you to take the blame. Basically cover for her. And at this point in this game, I decided Chloe is no good for my character. Max is above her now. She has let her life go in this thing. Screw her. And even though the game continues to make me have to help her out, I want nothing to do with her. So I made her take the blame.
Okay.
And I had no problems with it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you hide at all?
I couldn't find where to hide. I ran around the room like a crazy person. And then I got caught.
Okay. Because there's actually 3 separate things. There's actually a couple different ways that conversation can go. And it's actually a pretty in-depth conversation, which is saying a lot for this game, because there's a lot of stuff already that affects that conversation, and it's only in episode 1. You know? Because you can actually successfully hide in the closet during that conversation. And David will come in and get mad at her for the pot still, but he doesn't know you're there. And Chloe doesn't actually admit that you're there yet. And at some point, the confrontation escalates, and you get an option to either burst out and protect her or stay hidden. And I chose to stay hidden, and David slaps her in the face.
Good. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say that.
Oh, boy.
So that happens, and whatever. And then you go to the lighthouse, and that's where you realize that you are having visions of a tornado that is going to wreck the shit of the entire town.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen there. And that's the end of episode 1. And at this point, I don't know.
And also, it starts snowing in the middle, on like a warm kind of autumn day. Snow should not be possible.
So things are just going weird. And at this point, I don't know how you feel. I wasn't that into this game yet.
I actually was pretty into it at that point, but I also did not have nearly as strong of a negative reaction to Chloe as you did. I'll just put it that way.
I know. Or we'll get to it. Mm-hmm. All right, so you start episode 2.
Yes. And basically you start off episode 2, and the primary portion of episode 2 deals with Kate Marsh. Because she is having a bad time with things recently because a viral video of her at a party for an exclusive kind of clique called the Vortex Club that basically is the premier social circle at Blackwell Academy. She got into one of these parties, and there is a video of her acting very slutty. Yeah, I guess that's, why beat around the bush, really? The thing is, she is actually a highly religious person normally. And this video kind of got spread around, and she's being bullied relentlessly for it. And it's affecting her in a very, very painful way. And the majority, in fact, we'll go ahead and say the entirety of this episode centers around Max's interactions with Kate. Yeah. Because there are several times where you have the option to go talk to her, comfort her, or take her side on things. And yeah, I'm blanking on them off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So basically, you're dealing with Kate's issues and trying to help her out through the entire episode. And we're not going to go through all the major decisions because we'll be here for 6 hours.
Yeah.
But one major decision that I'm just curious what you did, because I'm sure you could tell what I did. But at one point, you're at the diner with Chloe, and you get a phone call from Kate. And that's your major decision. Is are you going to help Chloe, or are you going to answer the phone call from Kate? I enjoyed Kate. I really wanted to help her out. I felt really bad for her. Fuck Chloe. So I took the phone call. I'm just curious where you went.
I answered the call because I knew immediately, like right off the bat, that Kate was in trouble. Like, I think one of the first things you see in the episode, actually, is you go to take a shower, and Victoria and Taylor are there talking about the video, and generally being absolute bitches.
Yeah, and they put the link.
Yeah, the link up on the window.
Because I'm a terrible person at heart, I erased the link, but every time I visited a room, I was hoping it was on their computer.
Yeah. Good job. I think it's actually on the computer in Victoria's room, and that's about it.
I just didn't see it, but
no,
that's true. But it was like a still. I was like, I want to watch the video, but I want to delete it. But anyway, so then you answer the call, and you and Chloe go to the train tracks. You have a confrontation with a dude named Frank, who says Chloe owes him money. You have a confrontation with a gun. I fucked up and lost the gun.
Same.
And that happens, and then she gets stuck in a train track, which basically shows off the time powers to solve puzzles.
Yep.
Which, I don't know about you, and this is a good time to talk about it, I guess.
Right.
I had the toughest problems remembering that when you rewound time, you actually stayed in the same place.
Yep.
Everything else changed, but you never moved.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of puzzles where you need to do that. You need to move something and get to where it was, reverse time, and then everything will be back to normal, but you're past the obstacle.
Yep.
Where I don't know how many times I got stuck, and Haley's like, well, just do this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did that a couple times too. There was one near the end of the game where I did that, and I just kind of like when I figured it out, I was just like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, really?" Yeah. But
then the game gets real.
Yep.
So you leave the train tracks and you go back to the school, and you can find Kate is up on the building, and she's
not quite yet, actually.
Well, I'm going there. I'm not hitting step by step because we got a lot to get to. I'm getting to the major point. Is there something else you really wanted to hit?
There was one other choice that I really wanted to hit.
Okay.
You get back to class, and you're going to your photography class, and you find Kate Marsh talking to the professor, Mark Jefferson. And you can overhear their conversation, and then Kate runs off crying after Jefferson doesn't really say anything useful to her. And then you can go inside and continue, yeah. And now we can get to what you were trying to get to, because that is a slightly important point.
Well, yeah. So anyways, she goes up on the building. She's going to kill herself. Everyone is huddled around watching this in horror. And she jumps, which is awful. And then you can rewind and get up there and have a very big conversation. But you have rewound so much now that your nose is bleeding, and you have now lost the ability to rewind, which is huge.
Yep.
And which is what I wish would have happened more often. Because this decision is very crucial, because you can save Kate, but again, you needed to be a nosy bitch and gone through all of her shit and remembered all of it. Because the crucial question at the end is about who still loves her, and you have to pick the right family members to save her. If you pick somebody that she's having an argument with, that's it. I feel like I got every question she asked me correctly until that last one, and I had no clue because I didn't go through all of her stuff, which is rough. But this was definitely the moment in the game where I went, okay, this is not pulling any punches.
Yep.
As this young girl just committed suicide in front of me, and I cannot fix it.
Yep.
And now we've hit like Walking Dead level. Like now I feel sick.
Yep. That definitely happened to me as well. One thing I will note is I did snoop around a lot, and I found the answer to that question. The thing, however, is excuse me a second. God damn it, brain sneeze. Now it's going to happen while I'm trying to do this, because that's how this shit works. But anyway, throughout this episode, and actually one choice in episode 1, affects how that conversation can go. If you have been being nice to Kate for the entirety of the episodes up to that point, the prompts are very easy to get the right answer to, with the exception, I will admit, of the last one about the family. However, if you did not act nicely to Kate, the questions will be harder and, have no clearer answer. Like, the prime example that both of us got hit by was not stepping in when David was, harassing her. That changes the first question the first, choice you have to 4 options, none of which are very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get one wrong, it actually shows shows her stepping, away from you and back towards, falling to her death. So that's when you fucked up, because, she's stepping back. And so I got that first question wrong. I got the rest of them right, including the family one, because I had read a note from her dad while I was in her room on one of the other things you can do to comfort her. And I got that question right, but then the game throws another curveball at you. If you've gotten a question wrong to that point, it asks you one final question. It gives you one final dialogue choice. You can either quote one or two Bible verses at her, or you can say suicide is a sin, because she's from a very religious family. And that one is also you need to be a super snoop to figure it out, because you can find both Bible verses like in her room, but one of them is crossed out. So you have to pick the other one. And I'm so pissed at myself because I got to that point, I knew the Bible verses were there. I even stopped on stream and looked up the Bible verses. And then I overthought it and went, she probably doesn't want to hear the right answer because I thought it was God talking to, she was going to interpret it as God wants you to jump to go join him in heaven. Overthought the hell out of it. So I picked suicide as a sin and then plop. Yeah. And bad feelings all around. But, definitely a very, very powerful sequence there.
Yes.
Because it is possible to save her, you just have to, get the right answers, and without the aid of rewind powers. And it's probably something I will go back and do, because let's not mince words here. I think both of us at some point are going to go back to this and try to, finish out the optional photos and, maybe see the effects of some of the other options we didn't pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's beautiful about these kind of games. So then you hit episode 3, and listen, we're going to skim through a lot of episode 3. I think they wanted a lighter tone in most of episode 3, just after what ended episode 2. You hang out with Chloe a lot, you sneak out of your room, you go into a different building in the school, after hours. You're looking for some information about Nathan, and somebody that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah, I was about to say, we kind of missed, we haven't even mentioned one of the major driving points of the game.
Yeah, the first person in this whole scenario, Chloe's old friend, and I'm guessing lover, was named Rachel Amber, who went missing right before you came back. And Chloe is still trying to figure out what happened to her, and she feels that what is going on with Kate has something to do with Rachel, and now she's really on the warpath of finding out information. She is dead set that Nathan is the one that killed them both, basically, killed Rachel and made Kate commit suicide, basically. So you go into the school looking for this kind of stuff, and then you get to the shit parts of she wants to steal money from the handicapped.
Yeah, that was
douche. Of course, I didn't let her. And then you go swimming, and it's mostly lighthearted, but
it's lighthearted and setting up the relationship between Max and Chloe.
Yes, it's a very
fleshing out
Max, yes, it's very much Max and Chloe episode until you get near the end. And at this point, you go way back in time, where so Chloe's dad has died in a car wreck long ago when you were young. So you decide that you're going to go all the way back there. You see a picture from back in the day, and you're going to save her dad.
Yeah, because you find out you also have the ability to travel back to through photographs.
Yes.
To the time the photograph was taken, and then there was something else I wanted to point out before we got too far along, and now I've forgotten it. God damn it! Must not have been too important.
No.
Oh, no, it was about Nathan, sorry. Nathan, the reason why Nathan came up in regards to Kate is because, again, during episode 2, while you're trying to comfort Kate, she comes to you and tells you she has a very strong feeling that Nathan drugged her at one of the Vortex Club parties, and that's what caused her to do the stuff in the video, because she was drugged to have no inhibitions, and was so drugged that she does not remember any of it, and she asks if she should go to the police, and that's one of the decisions that actually affects her ending thing in episode 2. Is if you agree with her, she remembers that, and it makes one of the questions easier. But anyway, sorry. Back to the handicapped fun choice. That was a real dick move. Although I did waffle back and forth on it a little bit because.
She's a dick.
Not quite. The reason why is because it was in a handwritten envelope instead of anything official. And I figured maybe it was something else going on, shady, because I did kind of have a little bit of the same thing at this point that you did, where I was like, maybe Principal Wells is in on it.
Yeah.
And this is like a payoff or something that he has marked just in case somebody is snooping around. But then I, decided to err on the side of not being a douche and, told Chloe, leave it there, which I am grateful for because I saw the effect that had in one of the later episodes.
No, I haven't seen that, but... So anyway, so we go all the way through. Again, you can go now see pictures and go back in time to when that picture was taken, which becomes a big element of the rest of the game.
Yep.
And you go to save her dad, which was actually kind of a funny sequence for me. And Haley knew it was going to, because you go and take the keys, right? And you're like, I'm going to hide him over here. And then he goes and finds him anyways. I'm going to hide him here. Well, I have this beeper.
Yep.
Okay. And at this point, I'm going, God damn it!
Yeah.
Come on! And you end up having to throw it in the sink, so then the beeper doesn't work.
Oh, the sink is what you did? Oh, yeah. There's actually different ways to do that then, because I threw them outside.
Oh, that works too. So again, that's the cleverness of this game. There's a lot of different options and a lot of different small things that you can do that affect different things. But anyway, so you stop him from leaving. He's like, just get on a bus.
Yeah.
And he gets on the bus, and now that changes everything. And the one thing when you do go through the pictures is you don't now live through there. You basically see a picture and see how it changes.
Yeah.
As you go along.
Yeah.
So the way this one changes is the dad is now alive. You still go off to Seattle. And now that they're a big happy family, he buys her a new car.
For her 16th birthday, I believe it is.
Probably. So now you come back to where you are, and now you're one of the cool kids.
Yeah.
And the stepfather of Chloe is the bus driver. And then you go visit Chloe and come to find out she's the one that got in a car wreck, and she's a paraplegic.
Yep.
And I got really mad because it wouldn't let me keep it that way.
Wow. I think you have some issues, sir, but we'll get to that.
No, I don't have issues. Her dad was cool. Her dad was awesome. I would rather keep the dad than her. I'd rather keep Katie than her.
Ooh, boy. Anyway, one thing I do want to point... actually, two things I want to point out. Well, one of them we'll get to in episode 4, actually, because that's where we really start seeing the second thing I wanted to say. Seeing the look on David Madsen's face in the alternate timeline where he's the bus driver actually started to get me to turn around on him a little bit. Because up to that point, I was like, dude, David's a dick. You know?
But why did you think that? I'm very curious why you thought David was a dick.
Because, by the point in episode 2 where he's yelling at Kate, it should have been very obvious that something was going wrong. And he reverted to, like, soldier stuff before he reverted to being an actual human being. And, I believe...
But see, that's where, I started to actually feel for him, and we'll hit that point that you were talking about. But, I mean, obviously, I've never went to war or anything, but you always hear that kind of stuff. It's very tough for a military person to get back to the way they are. Yeah. And I always saw him, I mean, at first when you see his garage with all the cameras and all that was a little weird. But then, once you start thinking about it, he really is trying to protect his family. He does really care about the school. And I was starting to get that picture, I think, a little earlier than you did. Yeah. Which is why we'll just hit that topic real quick. You have a big argument between David and Chloe, and you can side between one or the other. Mm-hmm. You know where I sided. Yeah. I sided with Chloe. Because... Well, at that point, you hadn't turned on David, I guess. As far as thinking he was not crazy. Well, because, I can't remember what exact episode it is that you go and find his stuff. Because I'm pretty... I think it's 2. Actually, I think it might be 1. It is 1. No, I think it's... because it's before... No, it's episode 3, I think. Who cares? It's something. Yeah. It's an episode. But anyway, at some point in all the stuff we've talked about, as part of you and Chloe's trying to find information, Chloe... distracts her mom, Joyce, so you can get into the garage and, look at David's files. And you find, that he has installed surveillance cameras not only around Blackwell, but in his own house, without telling Chloe or Joyce. And that's the point where I kind of went, okay, that's fucked up. It's a little creepy, but again, I think it was just an overprotective thing. It's a mistake. I completely agree. By the end of the game, when, he actually kind of explains some of this stuff, I went, okay, yeah,
Sure, but you could have gone about it a bit better. But at that point, all I knew was he is being really overbearing with the surveillance. He hit his stepdaughter with absolutely no real cause to. And plus he's got surveillance on you, Kate, and several other people, and he's jumping to hilariously wrong conclusions. In some of his files, he's trying to link Kate to the Vortex Club, and anybody with half a brain should have been able to go, yeah, no, that's not actually happening. Yet he's still sitting here trying to, force the square peg into the round hole, or backward, however that saying goes. You know what I'm trying to say. And it was just like, dude, come on.
But you're still back in Chloe, so that's the same square peg in the round hole. Just saying.
Aye.
So episode 4 hits.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're with Chloe.
In the alternate timeline. Yep.
Where she is still bedridden and going through that. It's actually a nice moment, because obviously Chloe did not turn bad in this timeline. And you have the fun discussions with her and, hanging out again. And then you hit the major decision of where she doesn't want to live this way anymore. She doesn't want to be the burden on her parents. And I will say, even though, listen, I was not a fan of Chloe. Mm-hmm. This Chloe was fine. This was a tougher decision. If you really want to break it down. Because you never want to take a life, but you understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
The only reason I made my choice was because I knew it was a video game, and this was the alternate timeline that I was going to go back and fix anyways, so I ended her pain just to ease it. Mm-hmm. Just because I knew I was going to go back, and because we have to save Chloe, so we're going to go kill the dad again.
Yeah.
But what did you do?
I refused.
Yeah.
Because, you could tell even before the decision was, even before the dialogue that happens after you refuse, that Max didn't want to do it. And I was just like, I reached the opposite conclusion in the same, I don't know where I'm going with this sentence, let me try again. I, much like you, knew we were going to use one of those photos to go back. Use the photo to go back before the decision came up. So I already knew, okay, we're leaving this timeline soon. And I was sitting there and I was like, Max really doesn't want to do it, and she's still going to remember doing it even when she jumps back. So I decided to refuse. And yeah, that gets the alternate timeline Chloe pissed at you, but it was just like, the main character doesn't want to do it. And so I just went, no.
The main character's you, sir.
Yeah. But, just the way they were acting, Max was acting beforehand, I could kind of tell, she didn't really want to do it. So I chose refuse, and then we'll go back and fix this another way.
Yeah, which is going back and making it the way it was, where you let him go off to pick up the mom and get in the car wreck and pass away, and everything goes back to the way it was. Mm-hmm. The rest of episode 4 is basically you and Chloe going out and trying to find clues to nail Nathan to the board. Mm-hmm. So you go to different places.
Figuratively and literally, because in one of the best gameplay segments of the game, you actually, CSI pegboard shit. Yeah.
You have a pegboard, and there's 3 different mini games there, and then once you do that, it creates 2 more.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I love that part of the gameplay as well.
Yes.
This whole episode is you going out and collecting that information. Mm-hmm. Going and sneaking your way into places to get information, talking to people to get extra records that you didn't have before, stealing stuff basically here and there. Big point in this situation as you're getting all of your clues is you get confronted by Nathan again, and Mr. White Knight, friend zone himself, comes and starts beating the shit out of him. Mm. Did you stop him?
Yes. I
did too.
Yeah. Because not worth it.
It's partly not worth it, and partially it's I was Warren was one of those characters that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want him to turn into something that he's not.
Yeah. The other thing that affected that was, I believe, just before this, you actually get in. Yeah, you go into Nathan's dorm room, and you very quickly realize that this dude's a couple fruits short of a basket. Yes,
Nathan's room, and that's a good point to bring up. Nathan's room is full of just, like, psycho stuff.
Yeah.
Things are written weird, and weird letters from his dad. And
like,
just, I mean, you could just tell this guy
prescription drugs for, like, he has, everything. Yeah. And one thing we neglected to mention back in episode 3 it was, when they broke into the principal's office and found the files, you find a clue that is a drawing that Nathan Prescott did that is entirely of scribbles of Rachel is in the dark room. Mm-hmm. And that's going to come back into play here in a couple minutes as well.
Yeah.
So, you have the confrontation with Nathan. That happens. And then you go to the Vortex Club party, which Max somehow got invited to. Or actually, you cannot. You can't. Apparently, you can also not be invited and still somehow get in. I managed to completely back into being invited to it, like without even, like, I wasn't actively trying, but I just stumbled across the conversation path and did it, and I was like, oh, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the Vortex Club was episode 5.
No, because
you're right. Well,
the episode 4 cliffhanger.
Hold on.
Sorry.
It is episode 4, but you skipped a big part, which is what I've been doing, and this is why we needed to write notes. But yep. Whatever. So you get all the clues, you find out there's a barn.
Oh, God, yeah.
You go to the barn, and you find out that there's a hidden passageway underneath the barn, which is the dark room.
Yeah.
It's a giant photography lab where...
set within a bomb shelter, which the Prescotts made their money on with selling bomb shelters to the residents of Arcadia Bay.
And there you find files of a bunch of girls that have been
drugged
and taken advantage of, including Kate, including Rachel, with pictures that are
disturbing,
just terrible. I mean, they're not like ridiculously over the top, but they are very, very disturbing and make you feel very uncomfortable that you're in this location.
Yeah.
That sets you over the edge, and then you go to the Vortex Club, because now you're set, you're getting Nathan.
Actually, not quite, because Chloe sees Rachel's binder, and she recognizes where the picture was taken in the junkyard that used to be their kind of hangout. So you go to the junkyard and you find Rachel Amber's body.
No, you don't. That's after. Stop skipping.
No. You do. That happens during the day, and then you go to the Vortex Club thing. Because Chloe is on the fucking warpath at this point to go get Nathan.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Now I'm the one jumping.
Yeah.
We fucked this all up.
Yeah, we did.
This has been terrible.
It's alright.
Whatever. So anyway, you do find Rachel's body. She was in the junkyard, which is weird, because you were just there playing a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
You go to try to find him, you get a text saying that the evidence will be gone, basically. At this point, there are now 2 moons, by the way.
Yes.
Because things are all sorts of fucked up.
And, other things that have been happening include, at the end of episode 2, there was a solar eclipse when there wasn't one scheduled. And then at the end of, during episode 3 and at the start of episode 4, dead whales are coming ashore.
Yay!
At an alarming rate.
So you go back to the junkyard to confront Nathan, and you get drugged.
Yep.
You get hit with a needle, you go down, which takes away your ability to rewind, and you watch Chloe get shot in the forehead. As she goes down, and you're starting to go out of it, you come to find out that the person that did all of this was the teacher.
Yep.
Which your expression showed that you had no clue.
Yep.
Which made me laugh.
Did not see it coming.
I had an idea. Mine was, I thought it was a 2 or 3 person job, like a big town cover-up, but I had a sneaking suspicion the teacher was involved. I thought the principal might be too, but the teacher creeped me out, and especially once we saw the photo lab area, I was like, this is something, like, yes, the kid is in the photography class and stuff, but this is beyond even him. So it didn't surprise me as much, but then that gets us to episode 5, where now you are dealing with him. It locked in his fun room.
Yeah.
And he's taking pictures of you, and it's very uncomfortable. And now you're trying to fix this. And this is where the game goes off the deep end, really. Where so you go back to the very beginning, almost, and you decide to turn in your picture so you can confront him, and then basically turn him in.
Yeah.
And as it shows in the pictures, is you have turned in your photo, you've won the contest, he's arrested, everything's like that. You're off to San Francisco with the principal to do the big rewards thing.
Yeah.
Was a whole big part of the beginning of the game.
Yep.
You're feeling like a big shot, everything is great. You get a call. Tornado's coming.
Yep.
Whoops, we forgot about that part.
Yep.
So now you have to go back to your original picture that is hanging on the wall and go back and try to fix that. You're like, well, the only thing that can fix this is if I rip up this photo and never give it to him.
Yeah.
Not the fact that I'm going to tell on the teacher, which made no sense to me. But you do that, and now you don't go to San Francisco, but now you're back in the dark room.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're trying to get out of it, and that is when the stepfather shows up, Mr. David, the super knight, the great guy that I believed in the whole time, and Wes hated, comes and saves you, and then, as you said, has that heart-to-heart about, what he was going through.
Yeah. And then...
Did you feel bad at that point?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, at that point I was like, yeah, his heart was in... Actually, there's a point after you there's a point where you go back into his garage to find more clues, and there's a letter there you can find that he wrote and then did not finish and give, where it explains it, and I sat there and read it, and I was like, okay, he deserved better, yeah. So the major choice now, back in episode 5 now, after you help David survive his encounter with Mr. Jefferson, because he can die several times during that encounter, is you have to decide whether or not you want to tell him that in this timeline currently Chloe is dead. And this is one of the few choices where I hit the choice and then immediately regretted it and rewound. Because I told the truth, and then I realized, oh, wait, Chloe's dead in this timeline. Because I'd gotten a little bit lost and confused somehow. I realized, oh, wait, Chloe's dead in this timeline. Shit. And then I realized, he has a gun, and Mr. Jefferson is unconscious. He's about to go vigilante justice on his ass. Don't waste the bullet. So I had to watch him do it all and be like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Fuck. Rewind.
Yeah, I went with the not telling him idea, just not because I thought he was going to go crazy, but just, once again, you knew you were going to go back and try to fix it to save Chloe. So I didn't want to have him go through the heartache, basically, when it's not necessary, and he would have never remembered it anyways. But it's one of the weird things about this game. It's like you make these decisions late in this game knowing that they don't mean shit.
And yet you still agonize over them.
Yes, you do. Absolutely. You really do. So you go back, and now at this point, your mind is fucked. Everything is going goofy.
The tornado's coming.
It's just nothing is going right. Now you're with Chloe.
No, you're not.
No, there's one more thing that I'm missing.
You get out of the dark room, and you realize you need to travel back in time to save Chloe, but in this version of the timeline, Mr. Jefferson burned your diary with all your photos in it, so you do not have a photo to be able to go back, very far into the past. Well, this is where something we neglected to mention comes in.
You don't need to hit every part.
Well, no, this one's very important. Before you go into the party in episode 4,
There's a picture that gets taken, and you use that picture.
Exactly.
But it's not a huge discussion point. How do you want to discuss that picture?
I wasn't trying to discuss it. I was just trying to get it out there. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Thank you for getting it out. But I wasn't trying to do a discussion point. I was just trying to say that's the thing that happened.
But I'm saying I want to get to the discussion points. We don't need to go step by step for the whole story. People that are still listening have played this fucking game.
I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to get it out there, and then you cut me off like a dick. Anyway, so yes, we need the objective then becomes you need to get from the dark room, which is all the way out in the boonies, back into town to find Warren and get the picture from him. And you do that, and on your way to the Two Whales Diner, which is where he's holed up with Joyce and Frank and a few other people, you have the opportunity to save a couple of people, and you can do that, or not do it if you're a dick. But I helped every person I could find, which made me feel bad at the end of the episode because there is one I missed that I went out of my way to help in the previous episodes. But, excuse me, sorry. But you get into the diner, and you have conversations with Joyce and Frank and Warren, and you finally tell Warren all about the time travel stuff, and he takes it like a fucking champ. Like, he's just like, oh, you can travel through time, and that's probably why all this shit is happening? Okay, cool. Here's the picture, go back and fix this. So, you travel back through time.
Did you kiss him?
No. I hugged him.
You're a terrible person.
No, I hugged him.
You ultimately friend-zoned him.
Yep.
He was a champ, and you're like, hey, here's a hug.
Well,
Warren deserved a kiss.
I think that
Warren deserved a kiss.
I think what's going on here is your dislike of Chloe made it so that you did not see the very obvious text they were going for here. So
I understand the text. Warren deserved a kiss.
I disagree.
He was a champ. He saved you twice, and then took it like a champ and let you go back in time. He's not going to remember that you kissed him, but in that timeline, Warren deserved a kiss, goddammit.
I don't agree. I really don't. But, it's hard to articulate why I don't agree.
Well, we're going to get to why you don't agree right now.
Honestly, because, again, it's a question of Max will remember it. And,
And he deserved a kiss.
Max
it
will
wasn't
remember
a make-out kiss. It was a, you're an awesome person kiss. You give him the kiss. Plain and simple.
I think the hug was enough. I think the hug was enough, honestly. But, anyway. So, you travel back in time.
Did you kiss Chloe?
At what point?
Early on in the game.
Yeah, I did.
You're a dirty dog. Come on. I'm joking. I did too.
Yeah. Even though you hated her guts, you still did it.
This was before I hated her guts. And, well, maybe it was after. But
yeah, it was, because you said you hated her guts in the first decision in episode 1.
Go kiss, and I'm just going to do it. So I don't really care.
Anyway.
So now you get through this whole thing, and now you're out with Chloe. You go up to the lighthouse, and you black the fuck out.
Oh, my, yeah.
And you have a nightmare sequence, which we don't really need to get too far into. It's
because it's interesting. It's interesting storyline wise, but it drags like a bitch. Gameplay wise,
but I think it did a good enough job where I didn't realize that I was just going to pop back out of it. I was like, okay, how have I just lost it now?
Yeah.
Completely, and then you wake back up and everything is back to where it was.
Yeah,
kind of negates it a little bit. But it was an interesting segment, but I agree with you. There was probably 1 or 2 segments too long.
Yeah.
In the nightmare sequence. But it was basically their way of retelling everything that has gotten you to this point.
Yeah.
Before the final decision, where Chloe has realized that all of this is because of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything, the world went to shit. The tornadoes started happening once you saved her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she feels that was her destiny, was to die then. And all of this fucked up. So you take the picture of the butterfly that you take in the bathroom before everything goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And go back and fix it. And let her die and everything will go back to normal. Nothing else will crazy will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she understands that, and it is shown in the nightmare sequence where Chloe is basically talking to herself of, you're trying so hard to fix things that you want fixed.
Sorry, I'm gonna stop you right there. You just said Chloe. You meant Max, correct?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, Max. Where she's basically telling you, like, listen, you feel like you're doing the right thing, but it's what the only things that you have fixed are things that make you happy, not because they're the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the choice, the only choice that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kill Chloe, or do you sacrifice Chloe, or do you sacrifice Arcadia Bay?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I wasn't a big fan of the Chloe character.
Mm-hmm.
So I killed Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
I would have anyways. But the thing that really surprised me with you is watching your stream. And you said the comment, once you got to that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gave you the two options. You went, if this gave me the option in episode 4, I would have given up the town instantly. That shocks me.
Yeah. Because a lot of the named characters by episode 4, I hated. Outside of outside of Warren, Kate, and Chase, pretty much every single other character you meet in the game, I either disliked or had no opinion on. Strongly enough to.
That's so many people that you're sacrificing for one person
who
has admittedly just said, I get it now.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I went into this on the stream a little bit too. My memory's a bit fuzzy, but I can see, logically, yes, Arcadia. It's Arcadia Bay versus Chloe. You should kill Chloe, but again, as kind of a role-playing sort of thing, you're asking an 18-year-old girl who has spent the majority of the last week trying to save her best friend and. Let's be honest at this point. Love interest at this point. From all sorts of deaths and whatnot. Trying to get through it with her together. And you're asking her to make a split-second decision, this or the town. And honestly, I don't see her being able to pick the town. That being said, it is very, very fucking obvious that did not expect as many people to pick the Sacrifice Arcadia Bay ending as they did. Because if you go back and look at the PC stats right now, it is something like 57 to 43 Sacrifice Chloe over Arcadia Bay.
And it's closer on the Xbox One.
Yeah. So the Sacrifice Chloe ending, apparently, I have not actually gone and fully looked at it yet. I've listened to the song. I know the general idea of what happens. Apparently it has, like, almost 10 minutes of cutscene.
It's amazing.
Where Max is, like, moving on and whatnot. Whereas the Sacrifice Arcadia Bay ending has you and Chloe driving her truck through the ruins of the town. And, Max is kind of, despondent a little bit, and Chloe kind of gives her a pat on the shoulder like everything will be alright as Obstacles plays and you drive out of the town by the, thank you for visiting Arcadia Bay, come back again soon sign. That's not exactly what it says, but you get the idea. And it fades to black, and that's it. Like, it is very clear that they put more thought into the Sacrifice Chloe ending, and that's the route they wanted people to choose. But,
And they wanted you to know that if you saved Chloe, you're a selfish prick, and you get no cutscene.
Well, here's the weird part about that, though. The fact that they left it that open-ended means that there's, depending on your view of things, because they don't actually confirm very many deaths at all.
See, I heard you say this on the stream, and I'm going to stop you, because I totally disagree. Whether people are dead or not, you just destroyed a whole town. I mean, I heard you talking about, bomb shelters were a thing, and I saw this and that. You were in the timeline where the tornado was right there, and everyone was just huddled in the restaurant. Yes, they leave it open-ended, so if you want to make it think like it's a happy ending, which I'm sure those two, if you go that ending and you think Max and Chloe are leaving with themselves, they're praying that everyone made it. But if anyone made it, they would have went and helped. that was a selfish decision, and they just leave without even checking to see.
Well, that's another thing. They don't mention what time it is when Max and Chloe leave. For all we know, it could have been a couple of weeks later.
And that's disturbing.
You know, maybe they did go and help, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe they did go and help, and then finally they went, you know what? We have each other. We've helped all we can. We're going to go on that road trip we've been wanting to go on forever. You know? That comes up.
But
it comes up in the storyline, but you get what...
But you're saying that they may have helped. There's still whales on roofs.
And what do you expect? What do you expect two 18-year-olds to do about that?
But if you're saying it's weeks later,
well,
help is going to be there at some point.
Yes. Well, okay. If we want to get really serious, if we want to get really serious about this, Hurricane Katrina, that wasn't fixed in any matter of time.
Whales on roofs.
Yeah, but what?
All I'm saying is your decision was terrible.
Yeah.
Simply terrible and selfish and wrong and incorrect. And I also have to say that I am very disappointed, and I hope if they do make a second game, they fix this. I absolutely love this game, so don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. It gave you the feels many times. Okay? For as many decisions as you have to make, they all don't matter. Not a single decision you make in this entire game matters, except for the last one. The only one that does make a difference is if you save Kate and then you sacrifice Chloe, Kate is in the final cutscene.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't, she's not in the final cutscene.
Yeah.
That's it. All the other decisions don't mean anything. I would love it, and I feel like we're at that point in technology where they could branch this out completely. Well, why can't I? Because my feeling on the game is I don't like Chloe. I liked Warren. I liked Kate. Let me dump Chloe out of the picture and continue the storyline of trying to figure out who this murderer is with Kate and Warren. Or if Kate dies, Warren. Yeah. Give me that option and then have 20 different endings instead of 2.
Well, at this point, it's not a question of technology. It's a question of, development sprawl. Because, I mentioned earlier about the conversation in all the way back in episode 1 where, you can either hide or, not hide and then, take blame, don't take blame, or come out of the closet, don't come out of the closet. That conversation. There is a lot of stuff that affects that. Even just that one conversation. And a developer has to go through there and chart all that stuff out and keep it straight. And so at this point, I don't think it's a technology issue more than it's a development sprawl issue. Because if you start making it too complex, you're going to lose the plot at some point, and something's not going to make sense.
No, the plot will be different. And the thing is, a lot of those choices can intertwine with each other. Mm-hmm. Where, yes, you made one of 2 decisions here, but you make 2 decisions here, and maybe 2 different answers will end up in the same scenario at times. But I felt shoehorned in for a game that really wants you to make the decisions. Mm-hmm. It shoehorns you into the fact that you get to make the decisions, but you gotta fucking love Chloe, goddammit. And if you don't, you're screwed, because you're just gonna have to go save her every time. And it's kind of disappointing to me, because I did not have any emotional attachment to Chloe, and I did with a few other characters. And even if I didn't, to me, the ending, I would have stood by my decision anyways. Listen, you and me are great friends. I have that decision. I'm sorry, Wes. You gotta go.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. And that goes for basically anyone I know. If it's one person or thousands, maybe unless it's like my son, I'm sorry, but the one's got to go.
Yeah.
Thousands. I mean, it would be very difficult in a lot of those decisions, and I mean, it's much more difficult than hitting a button.
Yeah.
But to me, that decision was one of the easier ones of the game.
Yeah. But honestly, I think it's more, yeah, I've mentioned this already. Yes, I know logically it's, town over one girl, but, I went character-wise again and went, I really don't think Max would be strong enough to make that call at that point.
And that's how
go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, that's where you and I kind of differed in the way we played this game.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Max as a character. I saw myself as Max.
Yeah.
Which is where I got the frustrations of the game, because it kind of worked out the way you wanted it to, because Max, in the long run, made her own decisions, whether you decided A or B.
Mm-hmm.
So I, even though wanted to go one direction, the game kept, turning me. No. You want to go here.
Yeah.
So, in that retrospect, I think the way you viewed this game was more correct, as Max is a character, not Max is me on screen.
Yeah.
Max, which is weird to say, Max is me if I was an 18-year-old video game girl.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. I guess that about really covers it, though, I mean, yeah, I'm sitting here logically going, yeah, it's a terrible thing that I just, that I let the tornado hit. And then what I was trying to get at was, I'm justifying it with how sparse that ending was, that they left a lot of room for interpretation on, who lives, who died, how long exactly did Chloe and Max stay in Arcadia Bay after the storm hit, and I'm it would be kind of interesting to see if they ever do a season 2 of Life is Strange, which honestly might be up in the air at this point, given they've moved on to a new publisher and they're doing Vampire, which looks amazing.
And honestly, if they do a season 2 of Life is Strange, it needs to be a whole different scenario with different characters and the same kind of concept, but different. I don't think you can go on with this set of characters.
I still think there's some room to kind of wiggle around and tie up a few things that, didn't really get tied up in season 1. Like, you never really do.
But at that point, you have to have a canon answer.
Okay, yeah, I suppose that's a good point.
With your scenario, even though you want to be gumdrops and rainbows and think everyone survived and...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see where you're going.
But,
yeah.
I mean, you would have 2 completely different games. It's Chloe and Max in Seattle or Chloe and Max in Arcadia Bay. But anyways, we've run very long.
Okay, so a couple of gameplay things, real quick, or one gameplay thing, and just some minor thoughts I had that didn't really fit elsewhere in this entire conversation.
Yep.
First thing, the thing I made a note about all the way back when we were talking about episode 1, we were talking about how you were frustrated that every single time Max rewound and made you had a decision, Max would inner monologue go, maybe I should have made another choice, and it was like the game wanted you to rewind. And I said, I think that was intentional, and we'll get back to it in episode 5. The reason why I say that is because a lot of the nightmare sequence is the game basically force-feeding down your throat your rewinding is, you trying to make nice with people. That entire not the entire diner sequence is basically the game going, here's what you've done with all this rewinding. And so I think the game wanted you to have that, oh, should I go back and change that? Rewind? I don't know. What happens again in the other choice? Sort of thing. Simply because that makes the diner nightmare sequence make a bit more sense. If you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is, I really want to praise the voice acting, in particular Ashley Birch as Chloe, because you can tell it's the same person when you go to the alternate timeline in episode 4 or episode 3 and 4. but you can tell, that her experience being, quadriplegic and her respiratory system is failing has really done a number on her. Like, she's not as, loudmouthed as abrasive as she is in the prime timeline. We'll go with that term instead of normal or main. It's still her, but she's very strained because, of what has happened to her. And she knocks it out of the fucking park. A lot of the voice acting in general is amazing in this game, but I just really wanted to point out that specifically, that her voice acting in the alternate timeline as the alternate Chloe was fucking amazing.
Yeah, I still hate her.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick is the soundtrack in this game is fucking amazing. And if you had told me at the start of this episode, or at the start of this recording process of the episode, so 2 weeks ago, sorry, because one of the things I knew about Undertale was that it had an amazing soundtrack. So I figured going into this that after I played Undertale, I'd be sitting here listening to the Undertale soundtrack on repeat a lot. And don't get me wrong, I did that for a bit between the time where I was, playing Undertale and starting to really sink my teeth into Life is Strange. But now that I've beaten Life is Strange, literally the last 3 days, I've sat and listened to the licensed tracks on the OST on repeat, specifically Obstacles and Spanish Sahara, which plays in the Sacrifice Chloe ending.
Yeah, Obstacles is definitely my favorite song of the soundtrack, but I'm with you. The music's great. I mean, it fits with the mood and the atmosphere of this game
and
flawlessly, and it is very good to listen to anyways, if you like that, like, lighter rock.
Yeah, and I did some reading up, I did some reading up on the game in general, and the developers have gone on record as saying the music is a lot of what gives Life is Strange its charm, and I have to completely fucking agree with them. Because, there are moments in the game that would not be nearly as powerful if they didn't have music playing, that they didn't have the music playing as it was. Like, end of episode 2, like, when the lyrics came in and I realized what they were saying, it punched me right in the gut. So yeah, the soundtrack was amazing. The gameplay, with the exception of one or two minor stumbles, is amazing. The story is amazing. And Don't Nod is now 2 for 2 in my opinion, because I remember we both went into Remember Me kind of going, and we both came out of it going, wow, there were some rough spots, but this is a pretty good story and pretty decent gameplay. So coming into this, we kind of had a little bit higher expectations, and it still knocked them out of the fucking park.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we have gone now for 2 hours and 7 minutes, an hour and 6 minutes of that on Life is Strange. Holy fucking shit. So, we are going to call it an episode here. We will be back next Tuesday with our E3 special, talk about, some of the stuff that came out at E3 over the next week. And then 2 weeks from today, we will be back with our next quote-unquote normal episode, the second best of 2015 episode, where we're co-playing Until Dawn, Randy's playing Ori and the Blind Forest, and I'm playing I Am Toast. And on top of that, I'm continuing the stream streak every day, at least an hour. Randy is trying to stream usually 1 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, I think it is. Tuesday
through Saturday, 1 p.m. It gets changed for this Tuesday, but for most of you, it won't matter.
Yeah.
As far because the podcast comes out Tuesday. But yes, 1 p.m. for the most part, Tuesday through Saturday. I'll be playing a lot of Stardew Valley, Super Mario Maker, Rocket League.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell I want.
Yeah. Basically what I'll be doing on mine, because I only have, actually, technically, I guess I'll be streaming Until Dawn and Uncharted 4, most likely. But, yeah. I'll be doing I Am Toast and then Diablo 3 and maybe try to catch up on some of my unbeaten pile. I also will be writing at least one view from the backlog for 411 and probably have both Sean Garmer and Jeremy Thomas die of a heart attack. out of sheer shock. But yeah, I'm going to try to start getting on that train again. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. It should be an interesting couple of months here at the project, because we've got, I still have my donation incentive to complete from the Extra Life Marathon, and that will be coming up on my 28th birthday in July, and then we'll also be announcing something pretty cool for the end of July on that on or around that date, most likely. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully you will join us for all that. And until next time, whenever that is, as Will Wheaton always says, play more games.
I think we should have just went, here's the story baseline. Okay, here's the major instance. But,
oh, I need to go to bed. The way you said, here's the story, I'm just sitting there going, here's the story.
All right. You go to bed. By the way,
oh,
Tuesday,
there's the singer audio right there.